In this video, we're going to learn how to control the camera both in editor mode and in play mode for Amazon Sumerian. So let's get started. Alright, I'm here in my scene. The only entity that I have added to my scene is a box. And the important thing to remember is that your camera operates a little bit differently between editor mode and play mode. So let's talk about editor mode first. I am using a default camera as in editor mode, and the default camera or the editor mode camera is always going to be an orbit cam. And so what does that mean? Well, if I have this box selected and I press the F key to frame that entity in the middle, frames that entity in the middle of my canvas. And the first control we'll talk about is the zoom, so I can use my scroll wheel to zoom out and in. And because this is an orbit cam and I've not changed my central point for this orbit cam, if I click and hold my right mouse button, I will orbit around that entity. So I can orbit around this horizontally. I can also orbit vertically. So in all directions, I can orbit around this entity. Now, to change the center point, I can click and hold the left mouse button as well as the shift button. As I do that, I will pan left or right, up or down, and that changes the center point of my orbit cam. So now as I start to orbit again, you'll notice that I'm not orbiting around the box anymore. It's always going to be in the center of my canvas, so I'm orbiting around about this point right here. Okay, so that's in editor mode. Editor mode, it's also important to remember, is that you can select entities and they will be highlighted. You'll have these handles attached to them. Let's go ahead and look at the play mode. It's very similar. The main difference being you can't select entities. So I'm clicking and holding my right mouse button, and I'm still orbiting in all directions around a center point. And if I click and drag with the left mouse button, as well as holding the shift button, I'm still panning up, down, left, right. However, I cannot select entities anymore because you can't select entities when you're not in editor mode. So those are the basic controls for the default camera. Also notice that the default camera is selected as the main camera. There has to be a main camera in your scene. If there's only one camera, it will automatically by default be selected as the main camera. I also have it selected to follow the editor camera. So if I unselect this, and I'll go ahead and stop my scene, and I orbit around, you'll see there is my default camera sitting there still. So when I go into play mode, it will switch to that camera. And there it is. I can move it around, but when I stop, it'll go back to the position of those cameras before I clicked play. If I select follow editor camera again, that camera will then switch to following the editor camera. So essentially there are two different cameras here, but right now they're just acting as one. And that's how you control the camera in editor mode and play mode in Amazon Sumerian.